It's my honor to be able to introduce to you today a speaker who's well known by many of you. He is a successful businessman who has started, built, and managed or turned well known by many of you. He is a successful businessman who has started and turned around 22 companies. He's also one of America's foremost authorities on peak performance and individual achievement. And he addresses over 250,000 people worldwide every year. Since he began recording and taping his material, he's become one of the most listened to professional speakers in the world. His audio and video programs have been translated into 20 languages and are heard in over 38 countries. He's the author or narrator of such best-selling audio programs as Psychology of Achievement, Psychology of Selling, Psychology of Success, as well as The Science of Self-Confidence, How to Master Your Time, How to Start and Build Your Own Successful Business, and get this, more than 250 video training programs on leadership, sales, and personal performance. He's written 34 books, been translated into 23 languages. He's the creator of the personal coaching system Focal Point. He's traveled and worked in more than 80 countries, and he speaks 4 languages. He was the chief operating officer of a $265 million development company. He's active in community affairs. And probably the most important thing for Brian is that he's married with 4 children. And of course, he is the president of 3 companies headquartered in Solana Beach, California. It is a great privilege for me. I just met him for the first time today, so I'm excited to hear from him as well in person. Please welcome to the Weekend Leadership event, Mr. Brian Tracy.
I love you guys. Thank you. Sit down. Please sit down. I have some good news for you. More people are going to make more money in the next few years and become millionaires than in all the years of American history. And 80% of those people, 4 out of 5, are going to be people like yourself who own their own businesses and who come to these seminars. And my job is to help you to be one of those millionaires, and your job is to learn what you need to learn and to apply. Is that a good goal for our 2.5 hours together? Say yes. Now, when Kyle invited me to come here to speak, he said, you know, this is a very, very high-class audience. It's a very elite group. They're in the top 5 or 10% of people in America. He said they're all millionaires. And so I want you to know it's a real big honor to be here with so many millionaires, because what I've discovered since I got here this morning is that everybody here is a millionaire, or you intend to be in the future. Is that correct? Say yes. Okay. Now, I can't tell you how important that is, because future intention determines present action. Please remember this. Future intention determines present action. If you decide you're going to leave this convention center and you're going to drive to San Diego, it will tell you what turn you will take when you go out of the hotel, and at the next corner and the next corner. Every single step you take in the short term will be determined by where you're heading for. If you decide you're going to go to San Francisco, you will take totally different turns. Are you with me so far? So therefore, future intent determines present action. I work with Bill Danko, and Bill Danko is the co-writer of The Millionaire Next Door. He has spent his entire life, 30 years, studying self-made millionaires. I have been reading his stuff like a person chasing after him. I've been reading their stuff and their research all this period of time to find out about self-made millionaires. And what I found out is some very interesting things. First of all, they all have certain qualities in common. Second of all, nobody started off with any of these qualities. Third of all these qualities are learnable. Can anybody here drive a car? It's a rhetorical question. Don't raise your hand. I know you're really tired. You had a long night. Well, if you can drive a car, you can learn any business skill. You can learn any financial skill. If you can drive a car, you can learn enough to become a self-made millionaire. In the year 1900, there were 5,000 self-made millionaires in America. By the way, all millionaires in America, almost all, are self-made. When I was young, I used to feel sorry for myself because I didn't have any money. Wah, 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 wah. And then I found that nobody has any money. Everybody starts off broke. As a matter of fact, if you look at what the Founding Fathers wrote, the Founding Fathers designed America to be a country where people could come with nothing, basically with satchels, everything they owned, off a boat at Ellis Island, and they could start off here and by working hard, and as Chris said, by developing character and talent and working hard, telling the truth, and paying as little taxes as possible, they could eventually become prosperous and successful, if not millionaires. So don't feel sorry for yourself, by the way, if you started off with difficult circumstances. Now, I'm going to get off the track a little bit here, but first point is this, is everybody starts off broke. Most Americans like broke so much they keep going back to it throughout their adult lives, you know, like visiting the old hometown. But here's the point, and there's a wonderful line from Joe DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio once said, you know, there's no rich men's sons in the major leagues. He said they don't have the stomach for it. He said they don't have the hunger. They don't have the guts. They don't have the drive. He said rich men's sons grow up soft. He said all the hitters in the major leagues grew up hard. So if you had a difficult childhood and you didn't have a lot of money and your mommy and daddy didn't love you the way you wanted them to love you and so on, if you had a difficult childhood coming up, you should thank God every single morning because it's given you the character and the guts and the determination and the grit that will enable you to be successful. Yes. The worst thing that can happen is to grow up easy. Grow up hard. If you grow up hard, then you'll always be able to bounce back because you've done this before. Anyway, so there were 5,000 millionaires in 1900. In the year 2000, there were 5 million. By the year 2010, 2020, there'll be 10 or 15 million millionaires. And your job is to be one of those millionaires, and my job is to get you there. Now, here's a question. How many people like to double their income? You say yes? Okay. If I could show you how to do it, would you give it a try? Yes. Now, that is a test question. It's the only test question of the day. Do you know what the average number of times is that a person tries on a new goal before they give up? It's less than 1. Most people give up before they try it even once. Is they say, I'm going to set a new goal and I'm going to dedicate myself to doing this and more of this, less of that. They hear these wonderful talks by Jim and Dennis and Chris, and you hear these wonderful talks. They think, well, I'm going to make some decisions. But most people don't even try the first time. They talk themselves into it at the seminar and they talk themselves right back out of it on the way home. And they think of all the reasons why it's not possible. You know, there's a disease that plagues America. It's called excusitis. It's the inflammation of the excuse-making gland, which is invariably fatal to success. Now, here's the worst thing. Not only do they talk themselves out of it and don't do it, but someone else says, you know, I'm going to do that. I'm going to lose that weight and save that money and start that business and so on. So, no, it won't work. It won't work. What do you mean it won't work? Well, I thought about doing it once, too. Did you ever do anything about it? No, I didn't, but I knew it wouldn't work. And so they take great delight in talking other people out of it. That's why it's so important to associate and affiliate with the people who are here. One of the things I learned from Jim Rohn many years ago is get around the right people. Get around the right people. If you want to know where the right people are, turn to the left, turn to the right, right? These are the right people. People you associate with, as Chris was saying, your relationships will determine the quality of your life more than any other single factor. So, I have some good news for you. Everybody here is going to double their income. I have it on good statistical evidence. Everybody here is going to double their income. Yes, yes. If you live long enough. The average person's income goes up in America about 3 to 4% a year. So if you work for another 18 to 22 years, 3 to 4% a year, compound interest, you'll double your income. Is this what you had in mind? Say no. No. When do we want to do it? Now. All right. Now, I have to show you something. This is a chart. I hired a consultant to come in and work for me some years ago when Dale and I were working together, and he was going to study every part of my business. At the end of it, he left me with a lousy T-shirt and this graph and a bill for several $1,000s. But I think the graph was worth it because the graph is a picture that once you have it, you could apply it not only to your life but to different aspects of your life. And I'll show you what this graph is. This is the graph of income. So let's just say, imagine that this is the amount of income that you make in the course of your life, and this is where you start, and this is time. These are the years of your life. And this is where you end up at the end of your life. Now, there's all kinds of different incomes. Here's what we have discovered, by the way, is that each person decides where they're going to be on the income graph. By the things that we do, and by the things that we fail to do. And often the things that we fail to do have a worse effect on our life than the things that we do. But by the things we do or fail to do, the choices and decisions we make or don't make determine how much we earn. People say, no, my income is determined by my industry. No, because there's people in your industry making 10 times as much as you. There's people in your industry making half as much as you. So we decide where we will be in the long run. Now, we don't decide it overnight, but we decide where we'll be in the long run. So what we find is that everybody starts off earning something. Okay, you start off with your first job, and then most people's financial life is very much like the weather. It's unpredictable. It's sort of like a bad week on the NASDAQ. Their financial life is like this. It goes up and down, and sometimes they're in the money, sometimes they're out. Sometimes they're broke, sometimes they're unemployed, sometimes they're employed, making bonuses and so on. This is their financial life. Sometimes they're the windshield, sometimes they're the bug. And isn't that an true statement? And at the end of a person's life, as a result of experience plus luck, this is where most people end up. Fully 50% of baby boomers, according to the recent study, do not have a penny put aside for retirement, and they're pushing 55. They don't have a penny put aside. You all know the statistics, and these people are living on experience and luck. Well, this works out to be an average of about a 3% increase over the course of your lifetime. You know what the word job stands for. J-O-B says just over broke, okay? Nobody ever makes any money at a job. Nobody ever gets ahead. All you do is you keep your nose just above the waterline. That's all you do, and you hope that there's no storms. Because if there's a storm, suddenly, okay. Well, so this is the way most people live their lives. Now, it's very much, we say that most people's financial lives are like backing up in a car at night and hitting something. Whoomp, and you get out to see what it is, and it's a new job. Or it's a new marriage, or a new relationship, or a new investment, or something else. All right? Now you're driving along. Now imagine this. Imagine that this is like a back road in the farm country. You're driving along these rutted out, beat to heck back roads in the country, and you have no road map and you have no road signs. So you're lost most of the time financially. This is the story of most people. So they're lost and they have no road maps and no road signs, and it's a terrible road. Well, even if you're driving a brand new Mercedes-Benz, an absolutely beautiful car, engineered perfectly in every way, which is what your mind is. Your mind is the most incredible device for success, achievement, happiness, and long life in the whole world. You're driving with this incredible mind. You're driving a Mercedes-Benz. Even if you're sincere and hardworking and determined and honest and all of those good things, if you're lost on the back road with no road signs and no road maps, you'll never make any progress. Are you with me so far? Please stay with the analogy. Now, let's say you're driving along and you've been working for 10, 20, 30 years, and there are people who've been working 10, 20, 30 years, and they still don't have a pot to you-know-what in or a window to throw it out of. We're living in the most affluent country in the history of man on earth. People from 194 countries dream of coming here. We're living here surrounded by affluence that is unimaginable, and most people worry about money all the time. Now, we did a little bit of background research on you before you came here. We did some checking on you, and we found, this will come as a shock to you, there are people in this very room who worry about money all the time. Yes, and we know who you are. We are watching you. All right. So you're driving along, and your navigator says, honey, you know, this kind of living is lousy. I'm tired of worrying about there being too much month at the end of the money and so on. And you know, as we're driving along here, lost in these backwoods, I see this freeway over here. There's a freeway over there. I see cars just whipping along that freeway. Every so often I see them through the trees, or I get a glimpse of those cars just whipping along. If we could get onto that freeway, we could really make a lot of progress. So how do we get onto the freeway? Well, let's find a way, and you work your way across country, and you finally find the way onto the freeway. Now that's what this weekend is. This is the freeway. My talk is part of the freeway process, and to get onto the freeway. Now you get onto the freeway, you put your pedal to the metal, and suddenly you are making incredible progress. You are moving along, and this is the result of knowledge plus skill. That's the difference. Is once you get onto the freeway of life, you start to go faster and faster and make more and more progress. I have spent a lot of time in Germany. In Germany they have the Autobahns, and you're familiar with the Autobahns. The Autobahns have no speed limit. As a matter of fact, the Autobahns, it is illegal for you to stay on the inside lane. If somebody comes up behind you and you stay in the inside lane and do not let them through, you'll be ticketed and punished, and they fine you enormous amounts. In other words, nobody can stop anybody from going as fast as they want. You want to drive 200 miles an hour, nobody's allowed to stay in front of you. And we'll be good regulation here, wouldn't it? Is nobody's allowed to be in the center line if somebody's coming up behind them. Anyway, in there they don't have accidents, by the way. They have disasters. If a car crashes, they don't send a tow truck. They send a scraper. They just scrape up the pieces and the parts. Anyway, but imagine you're on the Autobahn of life, and you can go faster and faster and faster, straighter and straighter, faster and faster. Now, this is what happens with knowledge and skill. You see, once you get the knowledge, you can use it over and over again. But you've got to get it first. Once you get it, you can use it over and over again. And as you use it, you get better and better at it. As you get better and better at it, you get more and more results in less time with less investment of time and money. Are you with me so far? That is why people who start to make a little bit of money, then make a little bit more, then make a little bit more, then make a little bit more, they go faster and faster and faster because they get better and better and better at using the skill of making money. And all business skills are learnable. All money-making skills are learnable. So anyway, you're driving along, you whip along here. Now, here's my pretty critical point, is the people who are on the freeway of life are not smarter or better than people who are on the back roads. As a matter of fact, there are many people who are on the freeway of life. A person, to use an example, a person driving a rusted out jalopy, belching smoke, wheels falling off, terrible mechanical condition, will make more progress on the freeway than a genius driving a Mercedes-Benz on the back roads. Are you with me so far? There's nothing that will make you madder than to meet somebody who's dumber than you, making more money than you. Have you had that experience? Yes. And you look at this person, the person is an idiot. They can't find their bum with both hands, and they're making more money than you. And why? It's because they have gotten off the back roads and onto the Autobahn. And that's why people want to come here from all over the world. We talk about the American dream. The American dream. The American dream. Do you know something? There's no other country that has the word dream after its name. There's no Japanese dream, Chinese dream, German dream, Lebanese dream. There's no Nigerian dream or British dream. There's only one country in the world that has the American dream. And it's when Chris was talking about, And so I've given this a lot of thought, and I can come to the conclusion that the American dream is basically two things. Many other things too. It's two things. First of all, it's freedom. Like Braveheart, remember Braveheart? Freedom! We love to be free. So you get onto the high road of life and you go faster and faster and faster. Now our job is to get onto the high road, and the key to getting onto the high road is knowledge and skill. Now here's the difference. And this I don't know if you can pick this up, but this is the amount of money that you'll earn through the course of your life. It becomes more and more and more and more, and this is the amount that you'll end up with at the end of your lifetime. And this is controlled. Being on the back roads, the farm roads of life, are random, but being on the high road of life is controlled. And your job and my job is to get our finances under control, to get going straight ahead, to make every effort count, to make more and more money, and to end up financially independent. So the American dream is two things, freedom and financial independence. We want to have enough money so we can order from the menu without looking at the right-hand column to see how hungry we are. We want to have enough money so we never have to worry about money again. Is that a good goal? Say yes. Now remember, everybody starts off behind the 8 ball. The very few people that start off with money usually lose it fairly quickly. They blow it, they burn it up, and so on. But people who've had to earn it the hard way can keep it. So our job is to get there. Now, I have to ask you another question. Who's the most important person in this room? Well, do you know something? You're right. You are the most important person in this room. You are really, really important. You are so important it is unbelievable. To yourself, you're the most important person in the whole universe. There's a definition in the dictionary called a solipsist who practices solipsism. And a solipsist is a person who believes that they are the center of the known universe. And solipsism believes that everything in the universe revolves around them. Most of these people get into politics or show business. But we, to a greater or lesser degree, the word comes from the Greek, is we are all solipsists. We all see the world from ourselves. So in terms of your own self, you are the most important person in this room and the most important person in the world. But in terms of your family, you're very important. In terms of your parents, from the time you were a child, your friends, your customers, your co-workers, the things that you do make you a terribly, terribly important person. And the reason that I emphasize this is because how important you feel you are is the critical determinant of how much success you'll have in life. How important you feel you are, how much you like yourself and respect yourself, is the critical determinant of everything that happens to you. You know, and Dennis has taught this, and Jim has taught this, and I've taught this. For me, it's one of the great revelations is your level of self-esteem, how much you like and respect yourself, determines the entire quality of your life. That everything we do in life is either to raise our self-esteem or to protect it. And so the more you like yourself, the more you value yourself and see yourself as an important person, the more you like other people. And the more you like others, the more they like you, and they want to be around you and associated with you and buy from you and recommend you to their friends. There's another thing, is that self-esteem is very closely correlated with self-confidence. Is the more you like yourself, the more confidence you have. The more you like yourself, the more you bounce back from rejection and failure and disappointment. Now, everybody in life is going to get knocked down 1,000 times. The only question is how many times you get back up. And the more you like yourself, the more you realize that failure is never final, as Dennis says, is that failure is merely a form of feedback, is that problems are simply learning experiences. So what you do is, if you really like yourself, you say, "Ooh, that hurt, ouch," get back into it. And so the more you like yourself, the better you perform at everything you do. So I want you to say the words, because the things that you say to yourself have an inordinate power in your emotions. Say, "I like myself." No, let's take our thumbs out of our mouths. Let's try one more time. All right? Say, "I like myself." I like myself. Wonderful. Now, from now on, as you go through the day, say, "I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself." Do you know that every single language where I've taught this, in every single language, you can't say it without smiling to yourself? It is almost like taking a mental vitamin pill. You take it and you like yourself. As a matter of fact, there's an interesting thing. Our greatest, and Chris was talking about this, and other people talk about it, our greatest obstacles to success are our fears. Fears of failure, fears of loss, fears of making a mistake, and so on. But the more you like yourself, the less you fear. If the higher your self-esteem, the lower your level of fears. And so whenever you're feeling a little nervous or uncomfortable, or you're making a presentation, say, "I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself." Get yourself pumped up. "I like myself, I like myself." Go into a mirror, and I don't advise you to doing this in public washrooms or elevators, but as you walk along, say, "I like myself, I like myself, I like myself." And what you do is you pump up your psyche. You pump up your self-esteem. "I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like." Now, there are mornings when you get up and you will not say, "Good morning, God." You'll say, "Good God, it's morning." And so what you say is, "Oh boy, I feel terrible, but I like myself. I like myself, I like myself, I like myself." And you get yourself pumped. And the wonderful thing is, do you know what the key to human relations is? The key to human relations is to make other people feel important. Dale Carnegie's breakthrough book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, says make others feel important. And how do you make others feel important? You build their self-esteem. You give them praise and appreciation and compliment. You thank them. You say kind things to them. Zig Ziglar once said this wonderful line. He said, "You can never be too fair or too kind to other people. Never be too fair or too kind. When in doubt, always be even fairer, always be kinder." And why? Because when you're kind to people and generous to people and warm and complimentary, you build their self-esteem. And here's this wonderful thing in psychology, is everything you do that builds the self-esteem of another builds your own. Everything that you do that makes another person feel happier about themselves make you feel happier about yourself. So you find that really successful people, everywhere they go, people just brighten up and smile because they're friendly, they're warm, they're courteous. I have met, and Chris talks about this, I have met and worked with many of the great billionaires, and most of them self-made billionaires in the United States. And I find that every single case, when you meet with these people, and sometimes I spent several hours with them talking about their business alone in a room with the telephones off, and I found that in every case, and I think of these people, they shine in my mind, they're all warm, friendly, kind. If you didn't know that these people were some of the richest people in the world, if you didn't know in advance, there's no way you could tell from meeting them because they're just such nice people. And so now which comes first? Being a really genuinely nice person and being a great success, or being a great success and then becoming a nice person? By the way, there's a rule that says this: the success does not change you, it just makes you more of what you already are. So if you're a really nice person, you become successful, be a nicer person. If you're a jerk and you become successful, you become a bigger jerk. You know, you go to Hollywood, right? Okay. Anyway, so the fact is that you are the most important person here. And whenever you feel yourself a little bit down, just say, "Hey, I like myself. I like myself. I like myself." You take control of your mental life by putting your hands on the wheel and say, "Wait, I like myself." Failure is only feedback. Learn from every experience. Get up, get going, and so on. Okay, is this important? You get this? Okay. Now, next question. How many people here are self-employed? Well, Dale, what's the true answer to that question?
We all are.
We all are. The worst mistake you could ever make in your whole life is to ever think you work for anyone else but yourself. As a matter of fact, your job is not only to be self-employed, but to be unemployable. right? Where you just simply can't work for anybody else. You can only work for yourself. And it's interesting, it's the attitude. Chris was talking about attitude. It's the attitude of self-employment that separates the winners from the non-winners. It's top people, and according to the studies, the top 3% of adults see themselves as self-employed, even if they work for another company, even if someone else signs their paycheck all their lives. They see themselves as self-employed. They see themselves as in charge of their own life. And I have thought about this over and over again, and one of the great turning points in my life was this, is when I realized that I was responsible for everything that happened to me. I was in charge. I was self-employed. And the acceptance of total responsibility is one of the great scary thoughts, but one of the great liberating thoughts of life. And so I found that really high performers, all leaders, all men and women of great accomplishment, men and women of strength and character, men and women who accomplish great things, are people who are highly self-responsible. It is the key to success, and I'll come back to this a little bit later. So here are the words that you use. The words are, I am responsible. Say it. I am responsible. Oh, no. Try it again. I am responsible. I like myself. And I'm responsible. Those are the keys to success. As long as you hold on to those, whenever you have a problem or difficulty of any kind, you'll go back to that. I like myself and I'm responsible. If there's something in my life that's not working, then by gum, it's up to me to change it. I'm not going to sit here and moan and cry and weep and moan and blame other people. I just get busy and do something about it. All successful people are take-charge people. And these are really, really important in terms of becoming a millionaire. Can you imagine a milquetoast millionaire? A person who does not accept responsibility with low self-esteem? No. You've got to have a person who really likes themselves and who really feels in charge of their own life. One last question. What is the most important part of this weekend? You're right. It's what you do afterwards. It's not what we learn. It's not the pleasure that we have. It's not the interaction. It's what you do afterwards. Now, I've learned a very interesting point, and this has been borne out in 50 years of study. The one most identifiable quality of successful people is that they're intensely action-oriented, is they're moving fast. They're in action. They hear a good idea, they move quickly. They don't sit there and think about it. Because you sit there and think about it, what happens is the energy goes away. So you'll find that the most important part of today is what you do afterwards and how fast you do it. Now let me ask you a question. If you take action on any item, any idea, only two things can happen. What are they? You succeed or you fail. Okay? It works or it doesn't work. If it works, what do? You do more of it. If it doesn't work, what do? You learn from it quickly, get smarter, and try something else. But you cannot lose from taking action. You can only lose from not taking action. And when I spoke many years ago to one of the richest men in the world, he's now worth about $5.4 billion, and at that time he was just building his company. His company was just growing. He said, you know, they have found in their company that people who hear a new idea and take action quickly will succeed. He said, but people who hear a new idea and don't take action immediately will probably not take action on that idea at all and won't take action on anything else either. The one thing they've identified in successful people is that they're all intensely action-oriented. So always think in terms of what action do I take? What do I do now? Somebody comes to you with a problem. They say, I've got this problem. Wham, wham, wham. I say, good. What are you going to do about it? What's your next step? What's your next action step? How are you going to solve the problem? In other words, keep helping people think in terms of the actions that they're going to take to achieve their goals or resolve their problems. And you lead by example. As Albert Schweitzer said many years ago, he said, you must teach men at the school of example, for they will learn at no other. So the most important thing that you do for your friends and for your family is be an action-oriented person. Be a high self-esteem, high responsibility, action-oriented person. Those are the three qualities for financial success. Probably the three qualities for all kinds of success. Does this make sense so far? Yes. Say yes. Okay. Now, let me just go back quickly to my own story. I did not have an auspicious beginning. I grew up in a family that had no money. Our favorite theme song in our family was, we can't afford it, we can't afford it, we can't afford it, we can't afford it. In every tune and bar, is anybody growing up in a family, that was your theme song, we can't afford it? And I'm still now, even at my age, I still go and I look at the time and I go, geez, we can't afford it. What do you mean you can't afford it? It's a newspaper, for Christ's sake. I think I'll read somebody else's, you know? I mean, that costs 50 cents. Anyway. My friend Susie Orman said this. She said, one of the most important things in becoming wealthy is to deal with your goblins with regard to money. Almost all of us have goblins with regard to money. Fears, emotions, go back into our early childhood, the way our parents responded to money, what happened with money, did we not have very much, did we lose it, were our parents hurt financially? So we grow up with these fears with regard to money, and in order to become financially independent, you have to get over those fears. You have to first of all identify what they are. What is the number one fear with regard to money? Yeah, fear of poverty. We're afraid of being poor. We're afraid of not having any money. We're afraid of being destitute or dependent upon someone else. Now, it's not likely to happen, but nonetheless, that fear, which is an irrational fear, often holds us back from taking chances. And it's just something you have to identify. And I learned many years ago that if you have the fear of poverty, you say, all right, what's the flip side of the fear of poverty? What's the virtue of the fear of poverty? What's the good part of being afraid of not having money? What's the good part? Yeah, you work harder to get more money. You work harder and you're smarter in holding on to the money. You build up a financial estate. So starting off poor, as I said before, can often be a very good thing because it makes you very smart about making money and holding on to it. So in other words, when you talk about money like that, you bring it to the surface of your mind and you become free from the fears that are involved. That's no extra charge for that, just to throw in. Okay, so I started off with no money. I did not graduate from high school. I finished in the half of the class that makes the top half possible. They say that everybody serves some purpose, even if it's to be a bad example, and I was the bad example. The teachers would point to me and say, if you don't smarten up, you'll end up like him. And that would scare people, like the boogeyman under the bed. That would scare kids into doing their assignments. I had a chance to go to several schools when I was growing up because I kept getting thrown out of them. Suspended, expelled, rejected, suspended, expelled, rejected, and finally I left school and I got a job, a laboring job. I was told, by the way, that if you don't get a good education and get good grades, you won't do well in school. If you don't get good grades and do well in school, you won't get a good job, you won't go to college, you won't have a good life. So I've been told this all my life. You know, they tell you that, to tell kids that to scare them. So you grow up and they say, I didn't get very good grades in school. And by the way, remember I told you about the research that we did on you? Yes, we found some other interesting things. We found there are people in this very room who did not get good grades in school. Yes, and we know who you are. We were amazed at how many of you there are. It was astonishing. Anyway, here's what I learned later in life. It took me about 10, 15 years to learn this, is there's no relationship between grades in school and success in life, unless you believe there is. If you believe that because you got poor grades you can't be successful, that becomes your truth. As William James of Harvard said, belief creates the actual fact. If you believe it, it becomes true for you. But there's no relationship at all. There's no relationship